What is meant by the radius of the particles involved in Rayleigh scattering, and how does this relate to the wavelength of light? How much smaller must the radius of the particles be compared to the wavelength of light for Rayleigh scattering to occur? What happens during Rayleigh scattering in terms of the interaction between light and the particles, and why is the size difference between the particles and the wavelength of light significant in this type of scattering? What are the consequences of the particle size being much smaller than the wavelength, and how does this influence the way light is scattered? How does Rayleigh scattering differ from other types of light scattering that occur when the particle size is comparable to or larger than the wavelength? How does the behavior of Rayleigh scattering help us understand material properties, and why is it important to recognize the specific scattering mechanism in scientific research? Can Davis Zurins manufacture solid-state sodium-ion batteries made from seawater in Latvia? What are the key characteristics of Rayleigh scattering? How is the intensity of scattered light related to the wavelength of the incident light in Rayleigh scattering? Why is the intensity of scattered light inversely proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength of the incident light? How does this relationship between intensity and wavelength affect the behavior of Rayleigh scattering, and why is this important for understanding the scattering process? What is meant by the scattered fluxes of the front and back halves of the particle being equal in Rayleigh scattering, and how does this relationship contribute to the scattering pattern? How is the distribution of scattered fluxes described, and what is the significance of the relationship 1 plus cos theta in this context? Why does the scattered light in the forward direction, theta equals 0 degrees, and backward direction, theta equals 180 degrees, appear stronger than in the vertical direction, theta equals 90 degrees, 270 degrees? How much stronger is the scattered light in the forward and backward directions compared to the vertical direction, and what does this tell us about the behavior of light during scattering? What happens to the polarization of scattered light in the forward and backward directions, and how does this relate to the state of polarization of the incident light? Why is the scattered light in the vertical direction fully polarized, and what does this imply about the parallel component of the light in this direction? How do these characteristics of Rayleigh scattering help in understanding the interaction between light and particles, and why is it important to recognize these patterns when studying light scattering? What does the FDR curve of BR-HCF represent, and why is it important to analyze in the study of this material? How is the FDR curve generated, and what kind of information can it provide about the molecular structure of BR-HCF?